What's going on, fishy friends? Rich here, Rich's Fishes. Just got home from work, taking a walk around the fish room. Thought I would shoot as I go. Actually using a temporary camera right now. The camera that I usually use is a Nikon 1 series. And I went to use it the other day, actually, to shoot some video down here. I had big plans to... There's no lights on in here. Let me turn on some lights. Let's see. One. That's a little better. So I had some big plans to shoot some video down here. I had a couple of things in mind that I wanted to do. I was going to do a lot of maintenance and sort of shoot it as I go. And the camera that I typically use is a Nikon 1 series. It's a mirrorless, interchangeable lens camera. It's kind of in between a point and shoot and a DSLR. And I've had zero complaints about this camera. I've absolutely loved it for as long as I've been using it for about a year now. Matter of fact, here it is. Let's see. So that's the Nikon 1 series that I usually use, and you can see I got a rather long lens on here right now. And what happened is the typical lens that I like to shoot with down here, I think is a 10 to 30 millimeter, if I remember correctly. And I put that lens on the camera the way I always do, and the camera was giving me this error message, essentially saying, "Hey dumbass, how do you plan on taking video or shooting pictures if you don't have a lens attached?" So I removed the lens, I put the lens back on, I continued to get the same error, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I did a little more research, I looked around a little more online. Come to find it's a pretty known problem with this Nikon camera, and very specifically this one particular lens. I think this is the lens that comes with the camera when you buy it. I bought mine secondhand. I've since bought a second lens, which is a little better for distance, almost like a telephoto lens. I think it's 30 to 110 millimeter. And so since Nikon knows about the problem and admits that there is an issue with the compatibility of that stock lens with the camera, they will replace it and or fix it for free. So I had to box it up and ship it back to Nikon, and I was very reluctant to do that before Christmas. How was everybody's Christmas, by the way? Did you enjoy your holidays? Did Santa bring you everything that you wished for? If you don't celebrate Christmas, did you have a good holiday otherwise? Do you hate hearing about Christmas if you don't celebrate it? I do celebrate it, and I hate hearing about it. But anyway, because of all the shipping problems that happen around the holidays and New Year and everything like that, I was so very reluctant to pack up this lens and ship it back to Nikon. The last thing I wanted to hear was that UPS, Nikon does pay for free shipping. You got to print out a shipping label from UPS, so that's no big deal. But I was very, very, very reluctant to box this thing up and ship it out over the holidays, because I thought for sure it would get lost in transit and there would just be an issue. So I did just finally get it to UPS yesterday, right? Today is... I am lost this week between the holiday and a couple of days off, not going to work on Monday, and the holiday falling on a Sunday. I don't know what day it is anymore. I am so freaking confused. Today's Thursday. It's Thursday night. I'll probably get this video up on Friday, if not maybe Saturday at this point. So I did finally get the lens boxed and shipped out back to Nikon yesterday. I have no idea how long I can anticipate before Nikon fixes this thing for me. So in the interim, I got a temporary camera. It's not awful. But it got me thinking that it might be time for me to start shopping for a new camera anyway. And as I do with almost all of my equipment in the fish room, things like cameras and stuff I like to buy used also. That Nikon 1 camera I got at a great price on Craigslist. So I've been perusing Craigslist and stuff like that today, and I'm just amazed at how expensive cameras can be. Video cameras, DSLR cameras, other similar interchangeable lens cameras, the mirrorless ones like my Nikon I was just talking about. They're all incredibly expensive, and I don't want to spend that much money on a camera, especially when I can't seem to keep one for more than a year before I either get tired of it, or before it breaks, or before some other issue arises, and I don't know, it just kind of sucks. So let me know if you got any tips or pointers or suggestions for a camera I can use. While I do like that Nikon, it's not ideal for what I do down here in the fish room. Number one, I can't use it as a vlogging camera, so to say, the way I am right now. This camera right now that I'm using has a little LCD side panel, well, right there, so I can actually see what I'm filming right now. Whereas typically with that Nikon camera, if I'm using that camera on a tripod or trying to hold the camera out in my hand the way I am right now, I can't see what I'm filming. I gotta hope that I'm in frame. So ideally I want a camera that has that little LCD window. I know there's a bunch out right now that they consider vlogging cameras, where instead of the window flipping out on the side the way it does on a camcorder that I'm holding now, it kind of flips up from behind, which, I don't know, I've never used one, I have no idea if it works well or not. So I think that's a must for me. It doesn't have to be a DSLR, it doesn't have to be video and photo capable, because I have the Nikon one. That's a beautiful camera, standalone camera, not necessarily a video camera. So if I need to take still shots, I can always use that. So I'm thinking more along the lines of some sort of camcorder style camera like what I'm holding here. I think this takes pretty good shots. I think the color is pretty good on this. I think the image stabilization is pretty good on this. This is a Sony Handycam. I would like something where I could potentially add in a microphone instead of the stock microphone that's in the camera, so that's something to think about. So if anybody can suggest a camera, or anybody else that's shooting YouTube videos, if they have a camera that they like a lot, I'd love to know what it is that you use. And obviously budget friendly is the key here. So other than that, since I just got home from work, I'm going to walk around and start feeding the fish and kind of talk out loud for a little while. All the angels over here in the Planet 55 are looking real good. Man, I'm just noticing the battery life on this camera might not be so good. Pretty sure this thing was all fully charged up before I left, and I'm down to one little bar on the battery, so hopefully it doesn't just zuzz out on me. And/or hopefully I don't have to plug it into the wall and have a cord attached to me while I go here. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead, I'll put in some freeze-dried bloodworms over here for some of the angelfish. Watch them start chowing. Now, of course, my hand is all wet and I need to keep reaching into the bag for more freeze-dried blackworms. We'll let the discus eat a little bit. I mean, almost every fish in my fish room loves these blackworms. These are the freeze-dried Australian blackworms. I get these from Al Sabata, I think his name is. He's the guy that runs the Simply Discus forum, simplydiscus.com, and he imports these things from Australia. I always thought there was, you know, some voodoo involved and some hype the way I heard people talking about it, but man, fish go crazy for this stuff. So the discus love it, my angels love it. I just moved my hand and spooked them. But they can't be scared for too long when there's food in the tank. So up here, since I got so many big fish and so many angels and everything, I'll often supplement the freeze-dried blackworms along with some flakes. And if anybody's followed along on my videos, my rain gutter shelving is where I keep my fish food now. These are the rain gutters. I just installed the shelves. I'll put a link in the video below to that old video. And that's where I store a bunch of my fish food. And I'm looking for... And what I do is I repurpose old cans. I buy flake from Ken's Fish, and I repurpose all the old cans, and as you can see, I wrote on here that says, I think it says Angel Flake. It's very hard to read as I scribbled it across the top there. The black marker on a black can didn't work very well. So this is Angel Flake. It's a combination of a couple of different kinds. You might be able to sort of see in the color. But I buy big bags of Ken's Flake, multiple different kinds. And just as much as I like the freeze-dried Australian blackworms, almost every fish in my fish room also loves almost any of these flakes from Ken's Fish. The discus love it, the angels love it. Uh-oh, getting a light that the battery's about to die. Let me go plug in, guys. I'll be right back. Alright, so we're plugged in and charging. Now I'm attached to the wall. And the charging port makes it impossible to hold this camera where they expect you to hold it. That's some ingenious design right there. Thank you, Sony. So, what was I saying? Fish food. The fish like the flake. There we go, see? Nom nom nom. Oh, you missed. Oh, you missed. There you go. So let's see, who else needs some food? We'll put some flake in for the single angel over here. This is the last angel left in this tank. I do have intents on moving that fish over into that tank eventually. More on that in a couple of minutes. I got some a lot of different plans in my mind right now for the fish room in general that I'm hoping to touch upon at some point in this video. The discus that I've been treating up here looks, I don't know, not looking any worse. Not looking any better. The gills don't look so bad right now. I had put in a couple of Indian almond leaves in here. The tannins have all but disappeared already. I actually just did a big water change yesterday, but I expected to see some more tannins in the water by today, which I don't anymore. But the fish is eating, and that's about it. Down here in the 72-gallon bow front, I had some more fry that I saw in here the other day, so I set up the breeder box here with the intent of scooping the fry out and putting them in. whatever these fry are in this tank, I'm going to guess that they're rainbow fish fry. You can see I got my brine shrimp net still set up there. There's one of the fry. Oh, we had it. Where'd it go? Well, like I said, I'm going to guess... Oh, this camera is frustrating. I'm going to guess that they're a rainbow fish fry. And they're probably a hybrid of some sort. But they were minuscule. That one I'm focusing on here I think must have been from the first batch of fry. And I think there was probably more fry that I was looking at yesterday. But I can see at least 2 or 3 fry. There's one, there's 2. There might have been a third that just spooked them. I thought I had scooped up 1 or 2 yesterday and got them here into the breeder box. Yeah, there's still one swimming around in the breeder box, if not 2. You're probably not going to see him on camera. I can barely see him in real life. Now there's one up top. But the one in the breeder box, jeez. Any chance anybody can see that? Are minuscule compared to the ones that are left in the tank. But I had seen some fry a week or 2 ago and thought I had lost them all, so I decided if I try to put 1 or 2 in this breeder box, there's a chance they might survive as long as I keep feeding them. I can't set up an automatic feeder on that, and they are going to require quite a lot of food, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to keep up with as much food as they should have. But we'll hope for the best. Throw a little more food here into the bow front tank for the rainbow fish. I'll take a little more of this flake. I'll crumble some of it up. And we'll let the endlers eat. I have been finding 1 or 2 dead bodies in the endler tank. And I think there's no one to blame but myself. This tank is obviously very, very, very heavily stocked because the endlers just keep producing. Reproducing, I should say. And I think the nitrate levels have gotten a little bit high. The Java moss has exploded, which is not a bad thing. Plenty of space for the fry to hide, that's for sure. But I had just started noticing 1 or 2 dead bodies here and there yesterday. I had to pluck 1 or 2 out. So I got to make sure that I keep up with my water changes, start doing more water changes on this tank, and don't be so lackadaisical with it. Let's see. Now I'm getting tied up in my cord that I'm charging this camera with. Let's see, we'll put a little more flake into the Epistogramma trifasciata cherry shrimp tank. I like to dribble just a tiny bit of food in there. I do have those 2 male endlers. Up top here in the neon tetra tank with all these red cherry shrimp, I'll drop in a little bit of flake food. And I'll come back over this way and feed them when I'm not attached to the wall with my charger. Let's see, how far can I get? Not far enough. Well, that's what I was saying before about my camera. I'm stuck with my Nikon 1 camera and this big 30 to 110 millimeter lens. Yeah, that's a real long distance telephoto lens, so to say, and the fish room just isn't big enough to use a lens that big. I tried to get the camera as far back into this corner as I could this way yesterday, looking back that way while I was doing water changes, and you just couldn't. It just didn't work. It's just impossible. So it was frustrating, to say the very least. I got big plans for the new year, both for the fish room and my YouTube channel in general. I'm going to branch out on social media. I have just started a Facebook account for Rich's Fishes. I have made it my entire adult life without a Facebook account. How long has Facebook been popular now? Over a decade? I've made it this far without using it, and I just started my own Rich's Fishes Facebook page the other day. A couple of you might have already found it. If not, come be my friend. I need Facebook friends, guys. I gotta learn how this stuff works. I'm trying to post some of my YouTube videos there, and vice versa. Start using Instagram more, start using YouTube more. I really want to see my channel grow over the next year. I got some big goals for 2017. Some of my New Year's resolutions are to make more content, make better content, and to watch this channel grow. I'd like to, at the very least, double my subscriber rate by the end of next year, if not even higher than that. But I don't want to set a goal too high and upset myself either. So, part of that new plan for the new year is a potential rearrangement of the fish room. I've been talking about this here and there. I've been planning out in my mind and via email and verbally with Mike from Michael's Fish Room. And anybody else whose brain I can pick about this stuff. I've been planning out an auto water change system. Now, in order to complete the auto water change system, I'm going to need to break down a few tanks and drill them. And then the other day, I took down this wall over here. So now, imagine, if you will, that I had fancy editing software and knew how to show you guys what this could look like in the future. But what I am thinking is these tanks will get shifted over a tiny bit to kiss that shelf. I will get rid of that void there. These two tanks will then get pushed over this way and sort of kiss those two tanks. And then that'll leave me with an opening over here of about another 4 feet so I can fit some more 4-foot tanks right here. The way I have that 55-gallon way down low, and then the space, I think I could drop the space in between those two tanks and I might be able to fit another 20 long above. Then moving over this way, if I drop the 72 bow front as low as that 55, I think I can put another 55 above it and then put these two tanks above that. And then over here, I can get something maybe even like a 75, maybe two 75s or a 90-gallon tank over here. Also hoping that over there on that rack, you can see I'm sort of test fitting a 10-gallon tank on its side there. I'm going to move that 12 long, and I'm going to put 10s up there, 10s down below it, 10s down below it, and possibly 10s down below it. Or I think a 20 high would fit right next to that 10. So either 3 10s or a 20 and a 10. Then that would leave me, time to unplug, hopefully the battery doesn't die here. And then what that will leave me with is the 12 long over here, that's on the stand now. I have that 12 long there, and I could put that directly underneath it where these two are. This 10 gallon will go on to the rack over there with all the other 10 gallons, as well some of these tanks over here. If I remove this 10-gallon tank from up top, I have enough room on this shelf. It's a little bit bigger than my 10-gallon tank. I have enough room to fit this rimless 17-gallon Mr. Aqua tank up on top. That frees up that one for more 10 gallons down there. And that'll leave me with some questions on how to finish this up over here. Since joining Facebook, one of my buddies has commented to me that he is getting out of the hobby. He is breaking down his tank. He's got a 30-gallon cube tank and a couple of fish that he couldn't even identify for me, 6 or 7 tiny nano fish, I'm assuming tetras of some sort. And he has generously offered to give that to me. And when I asked him how much he wanted, he kind of laughed and he said, no, I'm going to give you the tank. I'm breaking it down. I don't want to use it anymore. I'm going to throw it away and instead I'll give it to you. So I got a 30-gallon cube coming my way, which is kind of cool. That will have to fit into my plans somehow, which might involve breaking down this 10-gallon rack altogether, even though I said I can fit the 17 up there. But I got to get this tank in my hands and kind of see the measurements of it and everything. Then other than that, I was also thinking, well, if I'm going to rearrange 90% of the fish room, might as well rearrange everything. That 10-gallon tank down there, which is my daughter's glowfish tank, can get moved over to this rack. That 20 high where the apistos are can also get moved over to this rack. So, 10-gallon like that, 20-gallon right next to it. 3 10-gallons up top, and then the bottom 2 shelves can either be a 10 and a 20, or 3 10s each. So that will basically leave this rack essentially empty. Like I said, I got the 12-gallon there, I'll put another 12-gallon there, and then I can empty out this bottom row. This bottom row right now is 45 inches from inside here to inside here. 45 inches is a frustrating length. I was not thinking clearly when I built this thing. I was trying to conserve a little bit of space, and I didn't want the tank stand to come out too far. But looking at it, I could come all the way out to where that tank stand is and still be fine. So I can come out another 3 inches or so, which means I'm going to rebuild this stand and make it a 48-inch long stand. And that way I can fit a 55-gallon tank down here. That 12-gallon tank can go up here. That 12-gallon tank can stay up there. This, I believe, is a 12-gallon cube, an 8-gallon cube. I'll have to do the math again. That can stay right there. That little tiny tank will fit on the side over there next to where a 12-gallon tank will go. So potentially I can add in quite a lot into the fish room. You know, one thing I forgot to comment on when I first started this video, when I got home from work today, I had noticed the red cover spawned over here. I had a funny feeling last night when I was doing water changes last night, I skipped doing a water change on this tank. And you can sort of see the results right there. But I skipped doing a water change because they were pecking at the cone, and I had a funny feeling they might spawn for me, and I didn't want to spook them. Now, a couple of these eggs are already fungused over and white, which means they weren't fertilized. And if I'm already seeing that they're white, these two probably started spawning as soon as I walked out of the fish room last night. I was staring at them for a good half hour, waiting for it to happen, and just never saw it happen. And now, obviously, it did happen, and I didn't realize. So anyway, I haven't done the math yet. I've been sketching I've been sketching like crazy over here, trying to draw out the room. This is sort of what the room looks like. This L shape. Oh, that's going to be difficult to get back. Let's see, move the refrigerator. So we're essentially standing right here in front of the washer dryer. And the fridge, here's the staircase. And then looking this way, we're going that way and all the way down. So what I'm talking about doing is adding in those extra tanks here and scooching all this stuff that way. So besides that, I've been trying to sketch out potentially what the rack can look like. I don't know if this is going to make sense to anyone other than myself in this ridiculous chicken scratch. So what we got there is essentially this side of the room. 55 and 55, right? 55, 55. That ridiculous thing in the middle is my CO2 tank. There's my CO2 tank. Then we got 72, 20, and 20. 72, 20, 20. So that's essentially what the room looks like. And that's essentially what I'm envisioning. Two 55s on the right, 72 in the middle with a 55 and or a 75 above it. 75 and a 75 all the way to the left, and then 20 longs all the way across the top. Obviously, before I do any of that, I am going to try to heat this room like I've been talking about, add in that extra zone onto my furnace, get a baseboard heater down here, heat the room to 80 to 82 degrees, and that way, whatever fish tanks I have or add, I don't have to worry about the electricity cost of running in-tank heaters in each and every tank. Now, I probably still well run a heater in each and every tank, but if I can keep the room at 80 to 82 degrees, those heaters aren't going to have to work nearly as hard. On top of that, when I switch over to the auto water change system, I will be able to add heated water into the tanks, the way I do when I do my water changes, but I can have continuous drips, if not timers and solenoid valves and irrigation drip lines and things like that, doing the water changes for me and constantly dripping in water at a preset temperature of roughly 80 to 82 degrees for most of my tanks. All my discus tanks and everything, I keep at least that hot. So the combination of heating the room to that warm and then also adding in that warm water throughout the day should cut back on the electricity cost, even if I'm going to be adding in more tanks. Now, yes, I will be using some gas for the furnace to heat both the water and to heat the room, but gas is cheaper to begin with, and I think the cost savings will easily be seen. I think I will be spending far less money on the extra gas than I would on the extra electricity. So that is the rough plan. I don't see this happening fast. I don't see this happening anytime soon. And every time I start planning it out, I just get frustrated because I know in my mind, to make this happen, I need to empty each one of these tanks. I need to get them out of my way. I need to break down all these racks. And I just don't have any room to work down here. So logistically, this is a nightmare. I'm also trying to simplify in my head how I might build more tank stands in the future. I'm thinking about 4x4 construction using half lap joints. I don't know, I'm going back and forth on that. The problem is I tend to build my stands stronger than they need to be. I can grab this and shake, and the tank barely moves. Same thing over here. I can grab this and I could drive a car into this thing and nothing would move. I mean, my weakest built stand is over here, and you can see some movement there. Actually, you can see a lot of movement there. But I'm still not afraid. You know, you could bump into it and cause everything to move, but that thing's never fallen down. I know for a fact that when I built this stand, you know, you could have parked the Volkswagen on this thing, no problem. I'd much rather overbuild than underbuild. I know the style that I used to build these stands is definitely strong enough to hold my tanks. They've been holding for this long, for 2 years now, some of them, almost. But if I switch over to a 4x4 construction using half lap joints, in theory it's just as strong. In theory it's recreating that out of a 4x4. You cut that piece out and then another 4x4 gets cut and fits into it essentially. But through trial and error, I'm going to have to start building and testing to see what works and what doesn't. So that's my my New Year's resolution, I guess we're going to call it. This will be my New Year's resolution video. Alright? It seems like a good enough name. So that's that. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, rate, subscribe. Let's make 2017 an excellent year for everybody. For you, for me, for YouTube, for Fish, for your family, for my family, and for whatever you got going on. Alright guys, comment, rate, subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one.